Hey there, good morning. How you doing? Are you well? Just move that mic out of the way. It's Thursday the 12th, it is, of December, which means it's election day. It's polling day here in the UK. Have you voted? Are you going to vote? Have you any intention of voting? Or are you not going to bother? Is it the weather? It's cold and grey, but rain-free at the moment here in Salford and Greater Manchester. I don't know if that'll make any difference. Here in Salford Eccles, Rebecca Long Bailey is a shoo-in, so it doesn't really matter what the turnout is in any case. So welcome to the Newspaper Review show, if that's what it is, here on YouTube. I see some of you are chatting away amongst yourselves there. Big good morning there to Barry Murtagh. How you doing, Barry? And thanks very much for your support. I really appreciate that. It made my morning. Thank you. Right, thanks, Barry. Yeah, so we're going to have a look at the papers. Look at that, look. Here you are. That's what you call production values. I should have had that there already, but I'm a little bit late. I got an extra half an hour in bed this morning. That's what it is. My other half walked the dog this morning. That's what you call a woman. That's a proper woman, that, yeah. My man's a bit hungover. I'll get up. I'll go out in the freezing cold, in the dark, with the dog. So, marvellous. Kudos to Caroline. Yeah, so it is a polling day. If you are at home or working from home today, you'll notice that the television and radio programmes are not talking about the election. That's because they are prohibited from doing so until 10 p.m. this evening when the exit poll is announced. Here you are. All right. But we're not precluded. We're not precluded from talking about it, even though I don't think we'll talk too much about it. There's some very interesting stuff in the papers today that isn't election related. And some things that we talk about sometimes on the radio show. Some good stuff in the papers today. So, it was a veritable feast this morning. Had a lovely day out yesterday. Thanks for not for allowing me, but for understanding. Caroline's got a week off this week. And I said I was going to go out one day in the week with her, that we'd go into town, do the Christmas market, and have a nice bit of mid-afternoon lunch, nice bit of pub grub, which we did in Mr. Hardy's Chop House in the city. We had a nice bit of pub grub. We walked around hand in hand. A lovely romantic day. There you are. Thanks very much. So I enjoyed it. I put a nice picture of the future Mrs. Allen on Twitter. She doesn't like that. She's very private. But it was a Christmassy scene. I thought she looked very well. She was resplendent, in fact. Yes, I had a nice day out, but I'm looking forward to today and tomorrow. I've got Gerald Celente among the guests later on. He's got a lot to say, Gerald, always, but particularly about trends in the news 2019 and looking ahead to 2020. The journal is always brilliant, so we'll have him on later on. And when we know the wider election picture tomorrow, sometime around lunchtime tomorrow, I'll give you plenty of notice. I'll be on the radio, not on here, but I'll be on the radio, and I do plan on having guests. And if I think I'll get calls, I say if I think I'll get calls, because as far as the time goes, it's not the best time to be trying to get people to phone you in the very early afternoon, but we'll see how it goes tomorrow anyway. You see this, you did? The new Time Person of the Year? It's Greta. These are strange times we live in, when an obviously mentally ill teenager adorns Time magazine as their Person of the Year. And I say that not for any laughs. I'm not looking for laughs this morning. I've got a head on me this morning. I've got a proper head on me. I'm not in the humour for trying to make you laugh. And I'm not being unkind. But the girl is mentally unstable. Told you, didn't I, on the radio show, we knew, in Spain, we knew a lovely man called Billy the Fish. Billy the Fish. That was his name because he sold fish and chips. And his name was Billy. Billy the Fish. And Billy's first wife, may she rest in peace, committed suicide, God love her. But she suffered from something that was diagnosed at the time as religious mania. She believed in... She had these apocalyptic visions all the time, and surrounded herself with religious artifacts, and was constantly in a very, very deep state of mania, really. talking about Jesus and God and the end of the world. And despite having gone in and out of various hospitals, eventually the lady sadly took her own life. Terrible thing, beautiful young woman, and that was it. I see a lot of what I heard and what I've seen over the years as a radio producer and broadcaster. I know she's on the spectrum, which is interesting. But what you get with Greta Thunberg and some of her followers have been on television this morning talking about her on Sky. Some of the followers who have met her and spent time with her, and there is a real evangelical feel to it. It's dangerous. Dangerous for all of us. It's dangerous for us because of where this is all going. David Bellamy died yesterday, incidentally, not getting much of a mention this morning. He's getting a mention, but not much of a mention. David, of course, called the climate change hoax out for what it is, a monumental load of old bollocks. So here's Greta then, a mentally unstable teenager on the front page of the Time magazine, as the person of the year. Yeah, and I'm not trying to be unkind to her. I'm not. Don't say that for a laugh, but she is mentally unstable, I would say. Right, what else is there then? Right, well, what else is there? We haven't done anything yet. Let's have a look at the newspapers then. The front pages. Funny, the broadcast media prevented from discussing either the election or issues surrounding the election. They can't do it. But the newspapers could say whatever they wanted today. So they've all got election messages. We'll go through them very quickly. You should be looking at The Guardian now. For some reason you're not. Will the Sun show up there? The Guardian wouldn't show up. Will the Sun show up? No, they won't show. What's going on? What is going on? Yeah, something is happening there that... Sure look, it wouldn't be this crappy live stream if something didn't go wrong. I can't for some reason show you the front pages of the newspapers. I should be able to show you, but I'm not. No, they won't drop in. Well, that's a shame. I can't show you the front, but I can show you some of the articles for some reason, but maybe it's the way I saved. The front pages. Finding that very strange. Good morning, by the way. Thanks for chatting away there amongst yourselves. I'm a bit disappointed now. I can't show you the front pages. Ah, well. Why is that? Now, if I do that, it comes up on my screen. But you can't see it. Anyway, this won't sound very good on the podcast, will it? Well, what a load of bollocks this is, somebody might say if they're podcasting. Yeah. Well, that is a right rotten pain in the arse. What if I do it this way? No. Anyway, right. I can't show you the front pages of the papers, so I'm not going to. There's the Times story about Greta Thunberg. Inside the Times, climate activist Greta named youngest person of the year. That is the Times story there. We'll have to just move through the stories now without having the front pages. The best laid plans and all of that. The best laid plans. Yeah. RT. RT.com talking about the election. Unpopularity contest, says RT. British voters head to polls to decide who they dislike the least. There's definitely an element of that about this election, isn't there? Both of them wretched, Corbyn and Boris Johnson. Although I must confess, I did get a WhatsApp message last night from Piers Corbyn, Jeremy Corbyn's brother. And I did message him back. And I said, good luck. Good luck tomorrow. If it has to be one of them. Right. If it has to be one of them. And it does have to be one of them. Fair enough. Good luck to Jeremy Corbyn. I suppose he's the lesser of two evils, maybe. You could make that argument. Now, on that, the polls. This is interesting. The Telegraph saying the result is too close to call as the polls opened this morning at 8 o'clock. Was it 7 or 8 o'clock they opened this morning? I think 8 o'clock, maybe it was 7. And inside the paper, it's very interesting this, they claim that the lead overnight was cut to just 5 points, meaning that a hung parliament is still very much in play on, which when you look at how the polls looked about 10, 12, even 2 weeks ago, 10, 12 days, 2 weeks ago, it's kind of weird, really, because there were 12, 13 points ahead at one stage of Conservatives, and they were predicting a lead of 366. Excuse me. They were predicting that the Conservatives would get 366 seats, which was a majority of over 40. You need to have 321 to form a majority. So this is the final poll of the campaign conducted by Savanta Comres on behalf of The Telegraph, which is a Conservative Party supporting newspaper, and it says the result is now too close to call. It's on a knife edge and the lead is only 5 points. That's what they're saying, right? Okay. We'll see, won't we, later on. I'll be watching it with great interest tonight. At 10 o'clock, just after 10 o'clock when the exit poll comes in. By the way, the trigger warning, lads, will be broadcasting as that's happening. So if you want their take on it, if you get pissed off of watching John Bercow on Sky News with Dermot Murnaghan, Jesus wept, or the motley crew of Muppets on BBC News or BBC One, if you get sick of that, go to Trigger Warning on YouTube and they'll be talking about it as it is happening as well. Okay. Too close to call. Right. I really wanted to show you the front pages of the papers because I'm wondering, can I do it? This, you see how stubborn I am. Let's see. So that's okay. Why can't I do it like that? Now it should just come up. What's going on? Strange, isn't it? I could close out of this and come back and then it would probably work, but if I do that I'll be knocking myself off the stream, so I won't do that. Alright, I won't knock myself off the stream. Too close to call then. Are you going to vote? I'm going to read some of your comments in a minute. I'm very interested, because I know that many of you believe that it doesn't matter, in which case you are right, it doesn't matter. But I also know that many of you who understand that it doesn't matter, you also believe that in the short to mid-term, things wouldn't be as bad for the worst off in society, for the poorest people. I know a lot of you believe that. I know Jeremy Corbyn's brother, Piers Corbyn, emphatically believes that. And I admire Piers, I have a lot of time for him. So would you vote along those lines? That you know ultimately it won't make any difference. In the scheme of things, in the wider scheme of things, it won't matter. But in the very short term, people who depend on benefits, people who live with illness, with long-term illness, the elderly, the working poor, people who work like dogs and cats, people who work every fucking hour. We know who work 2 jobs, 0 hours contracts jobs, and barely get to the end of the month. And you think they might be better off, for a while anyway, under Jeremy Corbyn. I know a lot of you believe that. So I don't piss on that, I don't disrespect you. There's a breaking news story, as I was just coming on this morning. The Mirror, this is brand new, so there's nothing I can say on this. The Mirror is claiming that Virginia Roberts Giuffre has been told by the FBI of a credible death threat against her. Some guy called Murphy writing in the Mirror, and this is breaking news, developing news. I don't know about that. The FBI telling her that there's a credible death threat, because as I understand it, help me out here, but Virginia Roberts Giuffre has said and has testified to all that she saw and witnessed. There isn't anything else that she can say about Ghislaine Maxwell or about Jeffrey Epstein or even about Prince Andrew. Do you get me? It's all on the record, isn't it? It's like, as the old saying goes, closing the stable door after the horse has bolted. What would be the point now in murdering Virginia Roberts Giuffre. But that's in the Mirror. That was just breaking as I was coming to this live stream. So make of that what you will. That's in the Mirror today. We have learned, of course, in recent days that more witnesses have come forward. 2 different women have said that they were prepared to go on the record to say that they remember Andrew, the Duke of York, with Virginia Roberts Giuffre in Tramp nightclub in London. So I don't know. Why would there be a death threat against her now at this stage? I don't know. Good morning, by the way. How you doing? Hi to Chris Brown. How you doing, Chris? And to Julie Walters. How you doing, Julie? Hi to John Rorty in the US. Let me know if you have gone and voted or if you plan to go and vote. I won't think any less of you. I've never had a trace of that type of arrogance. I don't think I know more than you or that I'm better than you. I tell you what I wouldn't do and I tell you why I wouldn't do it. It doesn't mean I think I know better than you. Yeah. Hi to Jennifer Garcia there in Florida. How you doing, Jennifer? And to William Henderson, who's off to vote SNP today in Scotland. Of course, that's one of the big things in this election. If the SNP do as well as they hope to do, that could provide the basis for a kind of a rainbow coalition of Labour obviously at the top of it, with support of the SNPs, maybe the Lib Dems, and maybe 1 or 2 independents, or maybe 1 or 2 Greens as well. Yeah. Hi to Kieran Doonan, who's in Belfast. How you doing, Kieran? He says, good morning, Richie. Do you want to hear a fact? North Belfast has the highest suicide rate in Europe. And Sinn Féin and the DUP have closed Stormont for 2 years, but want our votes today. The cheek of it, says Kieran in Belfast. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Kieran. Absolutely. Stuart says, if you're off to vote today, it looks like HARP didn't work, says Stuart. They wanted snow today to keep everyone trapped indoors, says Stuart. Are you sure about that? I believe we're going to have some snow at the weekend, in fact. Dean is in Spain and says Spain is cold. Dean. Right? There's the tiniest violin in the world playing for you, Dean. Nobody gives a shite, my friend. I lived in Spain for years. Hi to Cocobello, who sells polls aren't paid for. Nobody's doing free polling to reflect public opinions. Polls are paid to shape public opinion, she says. The exit polls can be useful. The exit polls are ordinarily fairly accurate. So if at 10:15 this evening they tell you that it's looking like a majority for the Conservative Party, you can take it to the bank. They're usually very accurate, yeah. Good morning, Joe Public. Good morning, Mr. Sin. And thank you for the super chat donation. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Yeah, we'll move on and we'll look at some more stories. Lots of chat there going on. You're chatting amongst yourselves there. If I see some comments, I'll read them out. I'm looking for comments here. Yeah. Let me go right to the end there. Skip to the end. Skip to the end. Guy Master says, Richie, did you see the LBC report on sexual attacks increasing? He's just retracted that message. Yeah. Damo says, Richie, have you invited Dr. Exley onto the show? He is the aluminium scientist. I have. I've corresponded with Chris Exley. That's all I'll say for the moment. Hi to Jane Phillips, who says, I wish one party would actually state that they don't necessarily need more money to sort the country out. I wish they could be a bit more businesslike and say the taxes costs could be managed better, says Jane. Thank you, Jane. Yeah. Okay. Let's have a look at some other stories. This made me laugh this morning. If you live in South Manchester, you might use the Fallowfield Loop, which is a wonderful, wonderful walk, which is basically it's an old train line. It's an old goods train line, and I think a passenger train line as well. the Fallowfield Loop. It's a lovely, lovely walk. And when we lived in Fallowfield, I would often live stream from there. Well, sometimes I would walk jazz and I would live stream using my phone just for a few minutes, just to tell you who's coming up on the radio show. And it is full of parakeets. Literally full of them. They've taken over, parakeets, and they are very noisy. They might be beautiful, and they are. Beautiful plumage, right? Beautiful plumage, but they are noisy as feck, and they compete with indigenous birds. It's the fucking immigrants. It's always the immigrants. But there's been a myth apparently about Jimi Hendrix playing a part in it, according to the Times. But I have to say, maybe I'm a very sheltered Irish boy, I'd never heard the Jimi Hendrix myth. I heard the African Queen myth, which they mentioned. I always believed, or I was led to believe, that the UK's parakeet population came about because of the filming of the African Queen, when they brought in thousands of the little buggers. But yeah, they're everywhere. They are beautiful. But it is very funny in the freezing cold in Manchester, when your fingers are frozen and, you know, there's icicles on your dog's fur, to see parakeets flying around screaming in the air. They're obviously a very robust bird, parakeets. But yeah, myth busting in the Times today. It's not Jimmy that brought in the parakeets. It's the African Queen. There you are now. Did you know that? You might have known that. You might not have known that. Let's do some serious stories. When you see Donald Trump walking around, he walks very stiffly, doesn't he? And I don't believe it's because he's got arthritis. And I don't believe it's because he's got vertigo. I believe that Donald walks the way he does because he has a dildo permanently inserted in his rectum. And that dildo is painted in the colours of the Israeli flag. He's got a dildo up his arse with the Star of David painted on it. He really does. He really does. I'm getting tired of Trump's supporters, to be honest. Trump now has signed a bill, and this is serious. I mean, talk about free speech, huh? Trump is going after university students in America that don't like Israel. Now, it's hardly a big reveal. It's hardly going to stun you. I don't like Israel very much either. In fact, I fucking hate Israel. Not the people there, or the majority of them, but the government. And you know what I think of Israel. So Trump, I want your comments on this. Students who campaign against Israel could be labelled anti-Semitic under an executive order signed by Trump. And it has divided the Jewish community in the United States. Well, it shouldn't divide the Jewish community. There is no fucking Jewish community. There are people, white people, who are followers of Judaism. That's all they are. They're not a fucking community. It shouldn't divide anybody. Everybody should be up in arms about it. Criminalising thought and opinions. Okay? The order will allow federal funds to be withheld from educational institutions that fail to combat discrimination against Jews, as concern rises about anti-Semitic incidents. But we don't get any examples, of course, of these anti-Semitic incidents because anti-Semitism is basically non-existent. First of all, Jews are not Semites. We know that, don't we? Right? Supporters of the BDS movement, which obviously wants to put pressure on Israel, financial pressure, economic pressure, have said the definition of anti-Semitism in the order could be used to silence critics of Israeli policy. But that's exactly what it's meant to do. Right? It's meant to confuse hatred of Jewish people for no other reason than they are Jewish, which is non-existent. It fucking is. Am I saying that there aren't people around who hate the Jews or who think that Jews are somehow responsible for all of life's ills? I'm not saying that because that would be stupid, but it is virtually non-existent. You might get 1 in 100,000 people who believe that. And it will be the same in the United States of America. Right. Trump is wretched, huh? A dildo in his rectum, in the anal cavity, 24/7, painted in the colours of Israel with a Star of David on it. I'm telling you. The worst there's ever been, Trump, for enabling Israel. There are fears that the extension to Judaism of protections based on race, colour or natural origin in the Civil Rights Act could backfire and lead to Jews being accused of dual loyalties, which is a well-worn anti-Semitic trope. But it's not an anti-Semitic trope. You've got Jewish congressmen and congresswomen that have dual citizenship. What the fuck, like? If you want to criticise that or if you want to question that, why not? I don't care. It doesn't bother me one way or the other. So that's in the Times. Jeremy Ben Ami, who's the president of the liberal Jewish organisation J Street, he says this order appears designed less to combat anti-Semitism than to have a chilling effect on free speech and to crack down on campus critics of Israel. Fair play. Fair play to the Times for finding a Jewish person that doesn't agree with it. That's something that the Mail and the Telegraph and other newspapers in the UK have failed to do this election cycle. They've rolled out Jews like Maureen Lipman, fucking arsehole, to say that Jews face an existential threat if Corbyn gets elected. But they failed to find a single other Jew, and there are thousands who not only support Corbyn, but have campaigned for him, have been on the campaign trail with him. At least the Times is saying the Jews don't like this, or at least some Jews don't like it. That's in the Times today. Trump, huh? Shilling for Israel since forever. Donald Trump. Dreadful. Awful, dreadful, dreadful man. Dreadful. Because there's a bit more of this anti-Semitism stuff in the press today. It's one of Jeremy Corbyn's allies, a woman called Kate Hollern. She's Labour's parliamentary candidate for Blackburn, so she'll be hoping to get elected today. And she's in trouble. She's Corbyn's parliamentary private secretary. She liked a post online which stated that Jewish leaders are worse than Nazis. So she liked that post. But what was the exact quote in the post? Well, a Labour councillor, Andy Kay, linked to an article in The Guardian, right? An article that was published in The Guardian back during Operation Protective Edge in 2014, when Israel was pounding Gaza from the sky again and killing men, women and children, mostly children. 500 children were murdered. The Guardian had an article in it, and the Labour councillor Andy Kay commented. He said, the Jewish state has learnt nothing from the Nazis, and the Jewish leaders are worse than the Nazis. She liked it, so now she's been accused of anti-Semitism. I liked it as well. During Operation Protective Edge, that's like something I would have said. They're worse than the Nazis. Jewish people were locked up, tortured and murdered in Germany. The Jewish state of Israel locks up children, tortures them, murders them. Whenever it feels like it, it flies over Gaza, tries to bomb these people back to the Stone Age. So they are fucking worse than the Nazis, in my opinion. There you are. You can like it or fucking lump it. I reserve the right to think and say whatever the fuck I want to think and say, any time of day or night. You don't have to like it. You can call me names if you want. You can threaten me. You can put my address on the fucking internet. But you're never going to stop me saying what it is I think or what I feel. You're never going to do that. And I know they'll never do it to you either. They're trying to do it to people though. The trigger warning boys, they make videos. Some of them are brilliant. Some of them are fucking shite, just like me, just like mine. Many of them are hilariously funny. Sometimes they're very serious. YouTube, for no good fucking reason, has decided to demonetize trigger warning permanently. No reason. No good fucking reason whatsoever. Just, no, you can't ever put ads on your videos. Ever. The lads talk about everything from Israel, Palestine, Yemen, to fucking football, to music, to tech issues around the internet, and they do it in a very funny way. But they've been told No. No monetization for you ever. I can't for the life of me see what it is about their videos that could be harmful or hateful. I know a lot of you were pissed off when they did their Rachel Corrie parody, and I know a lot of you were pissed off because I wouldn't condemn it. Kind of proving that many listeners to the radio show just really don't know anything about me. I fundamentally disagree with their take on what happened when Rachel Corrie was in Gaza. But they have a right to their opinion. And I'm not going to like somebody less than I like them already. I'm not going to take a dislike to somebody just because they see something in a vastly different way to the way I see it. It's never going to happen. But nothing about what they do could be described as harmful or racist, xenophobic or whatever. Yeah, you could say it's offensive, but everything is offensive, isn't it? Everything. Every single thing. I'm sure there might have been a Jewish man watching this up until 5 minutes ago and he might have switched off. That's offensive what he said, saying that the Israeli government is worse than the Nazis. It is, but it's not harmful. It's not going to hurt you. It's just my opinion. So yeah, they've demonetised the trigger warning, lads. Fuck them. They did it to me a long time ago. Dreadful. What else have we got for you? Got some good stuff for you. Yeah, because here's RT. Speaking of YouTube. Here's RT. Lots and lots of comments, by the way. Thank you. I really appreciate that. This is in RT today. Or it's on RT.com. It's not in RT. It's on RT.com. Internet and media personalities have come out in force against YouTube's crusade against harassment. That's harassment in inverted commas. Worried that the extremely vague and ill-defined new rules will be used to selectively target users for their political views. Of course! But don't worry. The stronger that you come down on one particular side, the better it will be for you on YouTube. If you're an ardent, diehard conservative, no problem. As long as you're telling people that Trump is brilliant, alt-right stuff, promote all that nonsense, they'll love you. Conversely, if you are, if you like one of the horsewomen, Ocasio-Cortez, if you're a Bernie supporter, Jeremy Corbyn, if you read The Canary online and you push that very hard, that identity, you'll be fine. The trigger warning boys, you see, have been demonetised because, like myself, they know that it's all monumental bollocks. And that is what the establishment will do, will bend over backwards to keep people from understanding that you are fucked either way. It makes no fucking difference. What will Jeremy Corbyn do next week? And they do it every single parliament. What will he do? He will put his hand on the Bible and he will swear an oath of allegiance to a dirty old fucking lizard in London and all her heirs. I will bear true and faithful allegiance to Queen Elizabeth, Her Majesty, Queen Elizabeth II, and all her heirs. Do you get me? Doesn't matter. That's what they don't want people figuring out. That's when you might get revolution. When people realise it doesn't matter a damn. Today doesn't matter. I'll cover it because you expect me to cover it. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about the implications of it. Tomorrow, Brexit and all that nonsense. But it doesn't matter. The boys understand that. And the boys don't nail their colours. And I reckon it's played a part in their demonetisation. But you go hard for one side or another, it doesn't matter how offensive you are, you'll be all right. They like that stuff, you see. Dreadful, huh? Poor Anne Widdecombe, I love Anne. I love Anne. and refuses to apologise for using the word gollywog in a Brexit Party WhatsApp message. Gollywog. Why did she say gollywog? Oh yeah, somebody tweeted Anne to say it sounds like our chairman, maybe they were referring to Richard Tice maybe, or not Farage. Sounds like our chairman had been in the receiving end of some witty rage. And Anne said, yes, I threw all my toys out of the pram, bears and gollywogs flying everywhere. Anne is a woman of a certain vintage. We're back to the Major again in Fawlty Towers, aren't we? We're back to the Major. She's a woman of a certain vintage. There you are. It's funny, these days people are very quick to lose their minds over stuff like this. But in the 1990s, there's an amazing clip. There's an amazing clip on YouTube. You can find it on YouTube if you want. Now, to my black viewers, don't get offended here. I'm going to use the N-word in context. There's an amazing clip during Italian 1990, the World Cup Italian 90, which is a terrible World Cup. It was great because Ireland were in it. We qualified for the first time, and our games were epics. Amazing. The whole country came to a standstill. But the football played in the tournament as a whole wasn't great. It was famous for Gaza crying, of course. It was famous for Schillaci getting all those goals for Italy. Nobody'd ever heard of him before the tournament. And Ireland beating Romania on penalties in the last 16. But other than that, it was a poor tournament. But BBC were on air one afternoon, and they had Geoff Hurst, one of the heroes of 1966, the only time that England won the World Cup. That ball was never over the line, by the way. So you had Geoff Hurst, and he was sitting alongside Garth Crooks. Now, Garth was a striker who most famously played for Spurs, and these days he's a BBC pundit. Interesting guy, Garth. I like him. He writes for the BBC website as well, and his take is always very interesting, Garth. But he's sitting alongside Geoff Hurst in 1990. And in the middle of the conversation, Geoff Hurst says, well, that's the nigger in the woodpile, isn't it? And Garth Crooks doesn't bat an eyelid. So things have changed in a very short space of time. I would imagine in 2019, if an old football player is on BT Sport and he's sitting alongside Rio Ferdinand, and he says, well, that's a good question, Jeff. That's the nigger in the woodpile, isn't it? Ferdinand would probably fucking punch him, probably. On air, or at least challenge him about it. Back in 1990, Garth Crooks didn't say anything. It might have been because, things were different. Maybe Garth Crooks was listening to it and thought, Jesus, what was that? What did he just say? And thought, well, I better keep my mouth shut, maybe. I don't know. But yeah. Yes. One of the royal family people. It wasn't Andrew, was it? He used that term, didn't he? Yeah, anyway. So Anne Widdecombe, shouldn't be saying gollywog, Anne, apparently. But those toys were called gollywogs, weren't they? I'm sure that one of my aunts, in a basket of hundreds of toys and dolls, I'm sure she had a fucking I'm sure there was a gollywog in there. But that's 35, 40 years ago. I'm rambling on now, aren't I? The Mail, the Guardian, she was so dangerous. Where in the world is the notorious Ghislaine Maxwell? So the Guardian has an interview with a young-ish woman who is telling a story about being 16 years old and being around Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. And the Guardian is asking, where is this woman now? But the Times alleged last weekend, didn't it, that Maxwell is in talks with US television companies to do an exclusive interview where she will defend Prince Andrew. So that would give you the impression that somebody has spoken to her. So I don't know. If you're coming in late on this, good morning. Just to let you know, the Mirror alleges that the FBI has told Virginia Roberts Giuffre that there is a credible death threat against her, a credible one. That was earlier. That went live on the Mirror at about 8:45 this morning. There you are. Yeah. Irish jokes. Paddy jokes. I used to get offended when I was younger. I was a bit precious when I was younger about Irish jokes. You know, Irish jokes are all the same. Ultimately the joke is on the Irish guy being a bit stupid or a bit dim or a bit slow. But I love a good Irish joke these days. Do you want a good Irish joke? Surely to fuck somebody has been fired for this. This is in the Irish Times. I'm rambling on now, aren't I? I really should fuck off now, shouldn't I? Just say yes and I will go. I should go now, shouldn't I? And do some work. I've got to go and have a run first. A hungover run. Nothing worse. Nothing worse than going up Langworthy Road. Fucking roads like that. Langworthy Road. With a headache. Yeah. Be Jesus. Excuse me. Jesus says, I'd never say the Irish are stupid, but they always look for the light switch to turn the sun off. My favourite always was, if you're in any local hospital, how do you know the Irish nurse? Because she's the one waking up the patients to give them their sleeping tablets. It was always one of my favourites growing up. Right. Mark Wilde says, save your knees, Richie. I'm convinced that when I talk about running, I always get a few messages from people telling me not to do it. I'm convinced that you are morbidly obese. You jealous bastards. I'm an Adonis. I'm an absolute Adonis. If I had hair, I'd be a supermodel. If I had hair, I would be a supermodel. I mean, be honest. Just look at me, right? Right, if I had hair. But you can't have everything. I have the looks, I have the body. This is some fucking story, this. In the Irish Times today. Are you reading it? Do you want me to read it for you? The former Irish Naval Service patrol ship, the Aisling, was sold to one of the participants in the civil war in Libya in breach of a UN arms embargo. But the Irish didn't sell it to the Libyans. No. We're as eccentric as Doc Brown. You're reading this? We sold a massive fucking Navy ship. These people should be in prison now. These Irish, the people responsible for this should be in jail. Not because the ship ended up in a civil war, right? Yeah. Not because it ended up in Libya, but because we sold it for 100,000 fucking euro. 110,000 euro. We sold it for 110,000 euro to a Dutch company. The Dutch company sold it on for 525,000 euro to a company in the UAE, and then they sold it for 1.5 million euro. But Paddy fucking Irishman, he sold a ship worth 1.5 million fucking euro for 100,000. Huh? How does that happen? How the fuck does that happen? Yeah. So now they're on the trail. They're on the trail. They're looking at the ownership documents, and they've traced it back to Ireland. And the Irish Naval Service sold a fucking ship for 100,000 euro that was worth up to 1.5 million. Yeah. Imagine that. That money was just resting in my account. Shocking, that. Fucking shocking. Fox News. Oh Christ, it's 10:15, I better go. Chris Wallace, presenter on Fox News, is going after Trump. This is the Irish Times as well. Today. Wallace says, I believe that Trump is engaged in the most direct, sustained assault on freedom of the press in our history. No sense of irony, Chris Wallace at Fox News. No company has done more to destroy the integrity of journalism than Fox News, or integrity in journalism than Fox News. And he's going after Trump. I love it. He's done everything he can to undercut the media to try and delegitimize us, and I think his purpose is clear: to raise doubts when we report critically about him and his administration that we can be trusted. When does Fox News report critically on Donald Trump? Go to YouTube. Go to Fox News' channel. Press videos and look at 40 or 50 video titles in a row. They're all pro-Trump. And negative to Biden, negative to Clinton. Fair enough. These people are fucking awful. But they're all pro-Trump, aren't they? It's a grand old party propaganda unit. It's a Republican Party propaganda centre, Fox News. So Fox is going after the president. I thought this was a bit mean-spirited, what I'm going to show you now. I thought this was a bit mean-spirited, but it did make me laugh. Trigger warning, big trigger warning here. Big trigger warning if you are not a meat eater. Big trigger warning, look away now. Bloke praised, this is in the Star, praised for munching on KFC bucket pieces at a vegan protest. Yeah. People protesting. Guy says, I'll get a KFC bucket and I'll rock up. Very mean-spirited of him. Some sort of a reaction, I suppose, to vegans storming restaurants and harassing people while they are eating, which I absolutely loathe. I hate that. I would take a swing at the nearest one, as long as it's a bloke. If I'm in a restaurant having a meal with my missus and I'm chilling out, trying to fucking forget the worries of the world, and fucking idiots start running through the restaurant screaming, no doubt. I know, violence is never the answer. You preach non-violence, Richie. I know, but I'm only human. In the Mirror, Epstein, $19 million settlement, but he won't be paying out himself, and he won't acknowledge that he did anything wrong. And he used a Zimmer frame, did Harvey. What a disgusting, awful bastard Harvey Weinstein is, eh? Or just to start a bit of shit, will I start saying Harvey Weinstein? Harvey Weinstein, of course. Horrible, awful bastard, right? Why did they throw him under the bus, though? I wonder, you know. And as bad as he is, Weinstein, at least it was grown women, right? At least. Sounds terrible, doesn't it? Because it's rotten. It's rotten. Sexual assault is dreadful, no matter who it's against. But he didn't mess with kids. At least we don't think so, do we? And finally, for now, good morning to Anne Hughes. How you doing, Anne? Fuck off and enjoy your hangover, says Anne. Good girl, Anne. You know it makes sense. I'm not going to fucking enjoy it, Anne, because I've got Gerald on the show just after 6, but I might have to fill an hour of entertaining, humorous and devilishly funny sometimes content for fucking you. So I'm not going to fucking enjoy it. I'm going to go running 6k, then I'm going to come back and frantically try and prepare a radio show. That's what I do, and it's no fun with a hangover. Believe you me. This is the worst fucking live stream that YouTube has ever hosted, isn't it? Tell the truth. You know it is. You know. We know. Now, you're still picturing Trump with a dildo painted in the Israeli flag colours, aren't you? Permanently resting in his anal cavity, aren't you? You are. You won't get that image out of your head now for the rest of the day. You won't be able to have sex, actually. If the missus takes you by the hand to the bedroom, you won't be able to get an erection because you'll have that in your mind all day long. This is mind control I'm doing now. This is MK Ultra. Next time you have sex, you're going to think of Trump with the Israeli dildo. Some of you like that. Some of you are turned on, I suppose. Right, final story today. John says, calm down, Baldy, you might grow some hair. I've loads of hair. There's nothing wrong with my hair. I could go to a barber if I wanted to. Fucking gorgeous. No, I'm not going to say it. Right, final story. This is a good story. Sky News lead with this today. They lead with it. It's an important story. If I can fucking find it. Oh. Where's the fucking story? Oh, this is a joke. Did I not upload the story? Oh, Christ. I did. Right, here's the story. Sky News. Again, before I do this story, I'm not trying to be unkind to anybody. Every one of us is a human being. Every one of us has the right to life, to happiness, and has the right to be who they want to be. And nobody should get in the way of it. You shouldn't be discriminated against because of your gender identity or because of your race or your religious denomination. Nobody should be. Okay, I'm not doing this to be unkind, but this is fucking serious. And we covered this a lot. Sky is leading with this. Chris is right, all bald men have hair, it's just really, really fine. Exactly, you can't see it. Right, it's a skin coloured hair. The NHS is over-diagnosing children having transgender treatment, former staff warned. Sky is running interviews with psychologists that have left the NHS because of this. 35 psychologists have resigned from the Children's Gender Identity Service in London in the last 3 years. Sky News research suggests 6 of them have now raised concerns about the hormone replacement hormone treatment, being given to children with gender dysphoria. Gender dysphoria, that's the key term there. Gender dysphoria is where a person experiences distress due to a mismatch between the biological sex and their own gender identity. This is the notion that you can be born in the wrong body. And when I say this, I don't mean to be hurtful. Okay? I don't mean to be hurtful. But I believe that when somebody thinks they were born in the wrong body, I believe that they are deluded. I wouldn't say mentally ill, because I think that's a bit unfair. You know, a lot of people who believe they were born in the wrong body, they live pretty normal lives. They have normal relationships. What do I mean by normal relationships? They get on with people. They coexist with people. They're good people. So I wouldn't say mentally ill, but they're deluded. You can't be born in the wrong body. You know, completely objective scientists. I'm not saying they're all objective, but completely objective biologists and scientists have concluded that you can't be born in the wrong body. You can't be. Right? So if you think you are, you know, you feel like, well, I'm really a woman, that's a delusion. I don't think it's psychosis. I think that's unfair to call it psychosis. But it's not legitimate. But I believe people should be allowed to live as they want to live. I've always said that. I wouldn't care. I wouldn't judge anybody based on, you know, on that. You know, it wouldn't be the basis for which I would decline your friendship. I'm happy, like I said before, to be with you, to be around you. But I wouldn't agree that you were born in the wrong body. What's really, really interesting about this is, and Sky have picked up on it. Why am I saying Sky picked up on it? Because it's kind of unusual that Sky have picked up on it. And that is, look at the graph. The reporter, because you have Kay Burley on Sky and you have Adam Bolton, but there's a reporter who's done a report for Sky, one of their in the field reporters, journalists. And she's doing a report that's going out all day long. You'll see it on Sky News if you want. And she says, once or twice in it, it's becoming so much more common now. Look at the graph there. 2,590, nearly 2,600 children referred to them last year, with 77 patients 10 years ago. Now, are you telling me that more and more children are being born in the wrong body than ever before? No, that can't be true. Something is happening to children. Something is happening. Something is being done to children to make so many children put their hands up and say, I'm in the wrong body. Or I identify as. And then they end up being referred to one of these services. And they get puberty blocking drugs and stuff recommended to them. Martin says, satanic child sacrifice. They're not being murdered, Martin. They're not killing these children. Are they killing them spiritually, are they? Maybe. I don't buy into this. And I'm very, very interested in trying to understand how so many children in 2019 are expressing themselves in this way, saying that something is wrong, I don't believe I am a boy, or I don't believe I am a girl. And psychologists are coming out, and I'm so glad they are, to say that there's something very wrong here. You know, one psychologist spoke to Sky under the protection of anonymity. They changed her voice and they blacked out her face. And she said, we're being accused of transphobia when we talk about gender dysphoria. And that's very concerning. So we're kind of moving towards a place now where mentioning gender dysphoria might be construed as a form of hate speech. You see, that's what the Lib Dems and the lunatic progressives in the Labour Party, these momentum people, they want people to be able to self-identify. To say, for example, tomorrow, I've said this before, tomorrow I decide to say I'm not a man, I am a woman, and I change my name to Michelle. And they want to give me a protection then, that tomorrow as Michelle, you can't say, oh, Richie has gender dysphoria. Because if you say that, that's tantamount to hate speech. That's what they're trying to bring in. You can't say, oh, Richie is losing these marbles there. He's got gender dysphoria there. You can't say that. They want to herald in, usher in, self-identification, full stop. The minute you identify as a woman, well then you are. And that's it. That's the end of it. No discussion about it. And everybody else must accept it. And if they don't accept it, well, there'll be consequences for them. That's fucking shocking. When you've got psychologists saying they're scared about talking about gender dysphoria because their careers are on the line, there's something very wrong here. There's something very wrong. And that's in Sky. So it's good stuff by Sky today. Good stuff. Right. I'm going to love you and leave you. This is absolutely shit. I don't know why you come back here every morning. I'll be with you today at 5. That's UK time. I'm hoping to have somebody with me in hour 1. If not, there's some things going on, some quite humorous stuff going on in the news as well. We'll have a bit of a crack. Then we'll get Gerald on. We won't know till after 10 tonight what's happening election wise. As I said, Hayden and Graham, the Trigger Warning crew, are on YouTube tonight because it's Thursday. They run a lot of live streams on YouTube, but their main shows are Tuesday and Thursday nights. And the big show is Thursday night, so they'll be on tonight, the two lads, and they'll have a lot of funny things, I would imagine, to say about the exit poll. And I'll be watching. I'll be watching. I'll have the BBC on one TV, and on my laptop I'll have the Trigger Warning boys on, and I'll be watching it as it develops as well. But look, we've got a lot to do before then. I'll see you at 5 on the radio show. Thanks for watching this garbage, and until 5 then, it's piss right off, right? I'll see you later. Bye.